Or is it? What's up, Skrull fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transform, where we talk about all of the adaptations of your favorite comic books into streaming shows and movies. I'm with my good friend Brian over there. What are you wearing on your shirt today, man?
Oh, I think it won this for. So this is the Transformers the movie poster, but with Ninja Turtles.
Oh my God, is that Krang as Unicron?
That is Krang as Unicron. Yes.
Oh, that's so hot. And then it's like, is that like Cyclonus, but is it like Shredder or something on the right?
Cyclonus would have. Yep, that's right. And Baxter Stockman will be Scourge on the other side.
Okay, cool, man. Nice, nice. So I said Skrull fans at the very beginning. Do you think people actually are Skrull fans? Like, is there any people that like Skrulls?
I'm sure there are some people out there.
Yeah. There actually was a book called The Skrull Kill Crew. That's hard to say. Skrull Kill Crew. Did you ever read that?
I had not read it, but I heard of it.
Yeah, I think it was Grant Morrison and Mark Miller together. Because they wrote a couple of things together, right? Yeah. And the premise, do you know the premise?
I don't remember. So, I mean, the audience probably doesn't know anyway. So let's.
Nice. Okay. So basically, the premise of Skrull Kill Crew was that the Fantastic Four, when the Skrulls first showed up, Reed Richards invented some kind of device to hypnotize the Skrulls and made them turn into cows. And Grant Morrison, as creative and crazy as they are, they were like, what if those cows were purchased by like a hamburger company and they were turned into hamburgers and people ate the Skrulls, right? Okay. And so you had these people that had these weird kind of shape-shifting powers because they had eaten Skrull burgers.
Okay, that is that sounds like Grant Morrison and Mark Miller.
Yes. Do you think that would have been a more interesting show than this one?
Yeah, I think so. I honestly think that is so weird and out there that I think it might have been like something that's like people might have been like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, guys, you should know that Brian and I actually haven't interacted like this in a couple of weeks because Brian went on vacation, I went on vacation. I think we had some like things with our jobs and stuff that kind of took up our time too. So it's been like maybe like 2 weeks at least since we've recorded.
Yes.
And so we haven't talked about this show. I'm just kind of wondering, in general, do you enjoy this show?
You would have asked me this the last time we recorded, I would have said yes.
Really?
After watching the last 3 episodes, I'm leaning more towards no.
That's interesting. Okay, why?
There was a couple scenes here and there that there's just a lot of things I just can't buy. More so this. What was the end action scene at the end of episode 4 was like baffling to me. I just don't understand how there's these people fighting. Supposedly it's Russians and U.S. agents there. The president is there. Rhodey is there. Rhodey's a Skrull, and he's just sitting there doing nothing. And they just like let Nick Fury and Talos just run up and like help out or whatever. No one's like stopping them.
No.
They let Nick Fury run off with the president. Like no one is stopping Nick Fury running off with the president. Nick Fury, who is not part of any government thing anymore.
Right.
He's this like top secret kind of dude that is probably not known. I mean, maybe he's known. I guess that's maybe what it was. Maybe that he is so known that like, oh, that's Nick Fury. Like we absolutely have to listen to him no matter what, even though he's been fired. And then also like there's just Skrull bodies dropping and like nobody's reacting to it at all. Like
yeah.
I'm guessing that more people than Nick Fury knew about the Skrulls, but yeah. I can't imagine that all the rank and file knew about it. So like, sure. I'm not like, why was there no one shocked that there was a Skrull, like a bunch of Skrull bodies in the floor there? Well, why was no one putting it together that, hey, these aren't Russians, they're Skrulls? Like, it was a huge leap in logic for me. That whole that was really the thing that crashed it for me. The other thing too, I would say in episode 3, it was 3 when they killed Gaia briefly.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like they kill her, and then the next episode they show us like, oh no, she's not dead because she went and made herself a Super Skrull by herself without anyone else's help. This thing that you read about on like a 1980s computer, like she can now operate on her own and infuse herself with this without any sense of danger whatsoever.
Oh man.
it's like too much. I really feel that they have really misused Amelia Clark.
Yeah.
I know you're not like a huge fan of hers, but like I feel like she's a pretty big name casting for a show
Yeah.
like this, and for adding someone to the MCU. I don't
Yeah.
think they've used her very well at all. She's had a couple moments here and there that were good with with her father. I think there was a good moment with
Talos.
no, not Tal. I know about Tal. I mean Nick Fury's wife, Vara or Priscilla, which it took me really way too long to realize that they're referring to the same character. Like Priscilla and Vara, they didn't make that super clear for a while. You just had to kind of guess at that, and I finally had to look it up to realize it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like and things like that. And at that point, at the end of episode 3, you're like, oh god, they killed Maria Hill, they killed Amelia Clark. It's like, oh, they're just fridging all the female characters in the show. And then I know she came back and all that, but I don't know. It started off interesting, and I feel like it's kind of gone off the rails a little bit, and I'm not as interested as I was in the beginning.
Wow. Okay. So you guys might not know this, but Brian went to Disney World, and I'm kind of worried that Disney did something to Brian because he's seeming very
Skrull.
Oh no, he's been replaced. But you think he'd be saying all positive stuff about this then? But
no, I'm playing the roadie role. I mean, I'm a Skrull for the enemy, and I'm just talking against them to keep my cover live.
Oh yes. And by this YouTube show and podcast, you're gonna have a wide audience.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
I will take over the world.
Yes. Oh my God. No, like you sound like me, man. You sound like me with all of your critiques and stuff of this.
You know what, though? Speaking of that, though, I have to. One of the few things I did critique in the second episode was the conversation between Nick and Rhodey. I thought it was really weird that Nick Fury was talking so much like brother and like black man and all that. Now I get it because he knew he was a Skrull and it was just like calling him out on it. And I really think that makes the scene like so much better in retrospect than I thought in the first place. It felt kind of out of place, but with that knowledge in hand, like I think it makes it like a lot better. And I still think the first 2 episodes are pretty good. And
yeah, that's interesting, man, because I feel the opposite of you. I've gotten bought in. I'm buying into this show. There's something about it that's interesting to me. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I have problems with it, absolutely. Like everything you described with that battle sequence where the president's cavalcade gets attacked. You're right. It just doesn't make any sense. It's one of those scenes where it's like they have to have this scene happen so that you can have this character beat, but logically in the world, it doesn't make any sense, right? You have to have the scene where Talos dies, and that's going to affect Nick Fury. And you have to have the scene where you kind of raise the stakes by saying like, oh, this could lead to World War III. But logically, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense that the president's cavalcade would get ambushed and then there wouldn't be like 6,000 people there immediately to intervene, And go ahead.
Another thing with the battle too is location. So I believe that was somewhere in the UK or
it was
somewhere about. Just the and I know they're using a lot of title cards to show you where people are at various points, but they're speeding around, the globe pretty quickly here.
Yeah,
that it's kind of jarring. Almost like how like the last season or 2 of Game of Thrones, people will like whip it up and down Westeros in like 5 seconds. That's what it feels like here. Like some like that base, the New Skrulls is in Russia, and all this attack on the president is in the UK. We've had scenes, I think, in Germany at some point or something. I don't know. There's been a whole bunch of places that they're just traveling around like nothing really.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's like one scene they're here, and then like less than an hour later they're in another part of the world, right? But I know that like Europe, it's a lot smaller. But I mean, Russia's freaking gigantic, right? I think because this goes along with what you were saying before too about like the logic. When Fury's talking to the president who's in a hospital bed after the attack, he's like, it was the Skrulls that attacked, right? And that makes it seem like the president is very aware of Skrulls. Like he just says Skrulls, and it's not even
No. I would believe that the president would know about Skrulls. Like, even though they haven't told us that explicitly, I would believe that would be true. But like all the people guarding him, or whatever, I don't believe that everyone would be knowledgeable to that fact.
Yeah,
and that no one would freak. Like, I feel like they should have made a story about someone like, holy shit, there's this green guy dead on this presidential attack. And they did mention it. It is kind of in the background scene in this the most recent episode, in episode 5.
Yeah,
you do see that in the background. But then like Rhodey or not Vara, Reva, no. Who's the Skrull impersonating Rhodey?
The one impersonating Rhodey is
Rava, which sounds like Riva, one of our favorite characters.
Oh boy.
But it's like then he threatens that he's going to release the footage of Gravik as Nick Fury shooting Maria Hill, as if the world knows who Maria Hill is.
Right.
Some secret agent or something like that. She wasn't even like really. We don't even know what she was working on or with or whatever, that she's able to just drop everything to go hang out with Fury.
Yeah.
But that's going to take precedence over a dead green guy? No.
Yeah. No, you bring up a good point. I think that's the problem, right? Is that it's just sort of nebulous as to like, what does the world know about Skrulls? What does the main world know about like Nick Fury and Shield and all that kind of stuff? It's never like fully established, right?
No.
And it's interesting because like so much of the MCU is focusing on the superheroes, and this show is just all about the covert stuff and the like espionage stuff, which you really don't get a lot of except for maybe in like the Black Widow movie and maybe like Captain America Winter Soldier. Pretty much every other MCU thing is not that.
What was your opinion on Nick's speech towards the end of the 5th episode, where he basically explains why he's not calling any of the superheroes?
Okay, well, it sounds like maybe you didn't like it. I actually kind of loved it.
Well, see, the thing is, like, I'm happy they addressed it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it just felt so like, hey, we don't have the budget, to hire all these actors, so we're just gonna put this kind of throwaway line in a epic-y sounding speech or something like that. I felt, I don't know.
Well, see, okay, the reason why I liked it is if you take apart it by piece, right? He says this one line about, what I have between my heads, Jesus. What I have between my ears, was given to me by a single mother. So he's like referring back to this story he told about his mother being a single mother and stuff, right? I like that. Then he says, the ring on my finger from my wife, and he's like referring to Priscilla or whatever, his Skrull wife. And then he says that if I can't handle this myself, then maybe I'm as good as dust. And of course, we know that like him being blipped out had a big impact on him, right? So it's like the dialogue itself is well written and really ties in. Yeah.
I will agree with that 100%. But I feel like it's like a half-assed way to say, hey, this is a TV show. You're not gonna see all the superheroes like they were in the comic version of this.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, in a way, and boy, we are like just jumping all over. I mean, if you guys are still like 13 minutes into this and wondering what the fuck we're talking about, we're covering episodes 3, 4, and 5 of Secret Invasion. And so we're right at the end of episode 5 here, what we're discussing. But I think what's interesting about this is, even though like logistically it's annoying and it doesn't make sense, it does make the stakes very high, right? Because it's like, if the Skrulls get the harvest, then they're going to have super Skrulls with the power of like. Go ahead.
Now, this is another thing that kind of threw me too and bothered me too. Like the first few episodes, they make it seem like the Skrulls want a home. They want to just take over the Earth and make it their home. They want to erase humanity because they know humanity won't accept them, and they're probably right. Like they're absolutely right. But now in this last episode, it seems as Gravik is just about this harvest thing, and I'm assuming he just wants power for himself. He doesn't really give a shit about the Skrulls and the home world or making a new home or anything like that. And that kind of throws me. I think I would have appreciated it a lot more if this was about, just them finding a home and disagreeing with Nick Fury's lack of action on it.
Yeah.
I think that would have been better than just using that as a ruse essentially, so Gravik can get the harvest and make himself even stronger. I'm assuming that's what's playing out here, because it seems like he was very willing to just sacrifice New Skrullos with all these people there.
Yeah.
Just to incite this war, because that's the one thing he thinks Fury's gonna get Fury to give him the harvest.
Yeah, I think that you're right. It does seem like a shift, definitely in like his agenda, right? But
the last thing to add to that too, sorry to interrupt there.
No, that's okay.
The fact that they're just mentioning the harvest at like the end of the beginning of episode 5 or the end of episode 4, total BS. It's like completely burying that in there. That should have been mentioned at some point earlier, I think.
Okay, well, you bring up an interesting point, right? Because we didn't write the show, right? And we just see the advertisement. We do like maybe a little bit of research. We see stuff on Twitter, and we start to put the show together in our head. We do that fantasy booking that Danny has mentioned before, right? And so we automatically assume, oh, they're going to try to make Super Skrulls based on like DNA they get from fallen heroes and villains, right? And so we're like filling in the blanks and projecting a story, but the story's not necessarily making the connections. Well, it is, but it's like it's not going at the pace that it should, right? It's kind of a leap, right? And so, like, I wonder when you're writing a superhero movie or a show, like, you know what it's supposed to be in the comics, and so you're like, oh, I know it's supposed to be this, but you still, from a storytelling point of view, have to make it make all sense. And I think you're absolutely right, where it's like it's just jumping, right? Or it's like shifting gears. I think every episode was written by the same guy, though.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And not to discredit that idea, I actually really like how they've introduced Super Skrulls into this. I think it's really unique and interesting, and rather than just, oh, they can just do that,
right?
They did some kind of research of some kind, and they took DNA of other things, and but it's like maybe that's what the show should have been about, or something. And they made it seem like it was about inciting this war between the U.S. and Russia, which is a very real life fear.
Yeah. It's kind of scary every time they reference that. Like, oh, go to war with Russia, shoot nukes at Russia. Yeah. But I want to address what you're saying though. Like, I've mentioned this before. I think you actually referenced me on this last time. But it's like, They always have these villains that are very sympathetic and you kind of are on board with them, but then they have to do something that's like too much where they've gone too far. And with Gravik, it seems like, he's obviously gone too far because he's killing off his own people. He's willing to sacrifice their home base, basically, New Skrullos, right? Just for his own agenda. And in the last 2 episodes, there's just been scenes of like people going against him and then him like literally just killing other Skrulls, right? So he's obviously gone too far. What would be interesting is if there was some kind of line of dialogue or some scene with like maybe him and Gaia where he's talking about how like, oh, well, we could have been more on equal terms with the Kree, but we weren't powerful enough. But now with these superhero powers, we could be. You know what I'm saying? Like where he's explaining why they need Super Skrulls. Like like that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if they're saying this is what we're doing and we're gonna go take back from our planet from the Kree. I think their planet is destroyed though, isn't it?
Yeah, but like he could be like, well, once we take over this planet, if the Kree ever came after us or anyone else came after us, we would be powerful, because
Yeah, something like that would work. It would help sell it a bit more. But this kind of shift between this semi. I mean, I can't even. I understand what you're saying about. They can't have the villain be too sympathetic because then it's like, who's right, who's wrong. But I think they had enough going, for them before they introduced this kind of violent, extremely violent, side of Gravik that he's killing his own men. Yeah. I don't think they needed that. I think they were fine enough that he wanted to start a war. He had good reasons for it, sort of, because he felt that the people who were supposed to be helping him find a new place to live are not doing it, so they're taking matters into their own hands. That was a good enough line to do it, and them inciting war and killing humans was enough to paint him as a mustache twirling villain. But like this Now he just looks like a crazy person.
Yeah, I mean, well, because he's like killing a lot of his own people. Like the beginning argument in the first 2 episodes is like it's all about preserving the Skrulls and having their own world. But he thinks he's killed Gaia in the third episode. Then he does kill Talos in the fourth episode or whatever, and then he kills like that one guy that talks against him in that meeting in the beginning.
Yeah, who was like a very loyal supporter that carried out a bunch of underhanded shit for him. It's
right.
Like, they basically try. He basically has killed off every named Skrull in the show.
Recognizable Skrull. Yeah.
I mean, he thinks he killed Guy. He killed that guy with the hat. I don't remember what his name was.
I think his name was Beto, which kind of cracks me up because that's like the guy running for governor or did run for governor in Texas.
I kept thinking that too.
Yeah.
And the other guy was like Paimon or something. Some of the P. I don't remember.
Sure.
But yeah, like he ordered the death of Vara. He thinks he killed Gaia, and those two guys are dead. So the only other named Talos is dead, and the only other named Skrull is the one that's impersonating Rhodey, other than Gravik himself.
Yeah,
like,
and that one's totally gonna die too. But I was gonna say, did you think that Talos was dead by the end of that episode?
Yeah, I didn't think there was gonna be any way. I didn't think they were gonna pull another scene like that after what they did with Gaia. It would be too much for them to resurrect him again, resurrect another character that was seemingly dead. I don't think it would have been good for the show.
Yeah, well, I made a thumbnail for our review, and it's like I was like, shit, they like killed off Maria Hill. They seemed like they killed Gaia, but they didn't. They killed off Talos. All these major characters. They killed off his wife off screen.
Yep.
Yeah, all these characters.
I mean, we don't know what the status of what's his name, Martin Freeman.
Ross, right? Everett
Ross. Yeah, Everett Ross. Yeah, Everett Ross. We don't know what his the actual Everett Ross's status is. So he might be dead too.
I'm assuming that everyone that is impersonated by a Skrull is in that new Skrullos base.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then what I forgot. We forgot though is our that cameo of that major character Mason.
Wait, what? What?
The dude that brings Nick Fury the jet?
Yeah.
He was the guy in Black Widow that like supplied Natasha with like the helicopter and all the shit they needed.
Okay.
I looked at him I feel like this guy looks familiar. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's the guy from Black Widow, but I feel like it should have had more of an impact, I guess. Because he was just in that movie, I think, and maybe he was in Falcon Winter Soldier for like a second, maybe.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up, man. Because like when he was on screen, I was essentially just thinking to myself, "Oh, they don't have anyone for Nick Fury to talk to in this scene because Talos is dead. So there's no person to have this little interaction with. So there's just this random dude. But now you're telling me he's like from another movie."
Yeah, it just again, I know that we already mentioned that they're keeping this very enclosed in the spy world, and Nick Fury had the speech about why he's not calling the superheroes, but that was the whole interesting thing about the comic version. Is like, who was the Skrull? Who's been a Skrull for years? And I know that they can't do this. Maybe this should have been a movie. Maybe they could have done that with some of these bigger actors and superhero characters, and it would have been more worthwhile. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I have some like notes, but we've kind of gone off script, and that's okay. Because I was going to ask you this, right? Don't you feel like your interest in the MCU has just like dropped a lot?
Bob Iger is right. Bob Iger is right. They have oversaturated the market.
Oh my God! Did you just say like Bob Iger, the target of like all the strikes and stuff right now, is right? Did we just record that?
I did say it.
Oh God!
But he's not right about that stuff. He's just right about that there has been too much Star Wars and Marvel, and they need to pull it back to be more tentpole focused.
Yes.
And he's 100% right about that. I mean, that's.
Because like there's a YouTube channel called Comic Storian, and I like to watch his reviews. He does these like sort of complaining reviews every so often, and he was comparing Marvel and DC, but the comic books. But he did reference the MCU, and he said that like nothing in Phase 4 seems to be connected. And would you agree with that? Or we're in fucking Phase 5 now anyway. Too.
Yeah. I've said this before. I don't think that Phase 4 looks all that different from Phase 1.
Okay.
There's a lot of new heroes introduced. Granted, they're not as, top tier as they were as in Phase 1.
Yeah.
But other than the occasional mention of an Infinity Stone, and just seeing the characters pop up, I guess I don't think they're that much different in terms of having things in common or not. If you're saying that, if you're comparing Phase 4 or Phase 5 to like Phase 3, obviously there's a huge difference in that.
Right.
I don't think you should be comparing those. This is part 1 of 3, and you should be comparing it to part 1 of 3, which is Phase 1.
Okay, that's a very, very good point.
I guess this is part 2, but
right, with Phase 5. Yeah, but you know what? Even with that being said, there still is like a little bit of connective tissue. Like all the multiverse shit is, feels connected. Like the multiverse stuff of like, Spider-Man No Way Home, and then like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, but I mean, still too, you always have to take into consideration too just how these shared comic book worlds work.
Yeah.
Like, does every X-Men story interact with every Avengers or Spider-Man story?
No.
Lately, actually, yeah. But
yeah.
I'm actually buying an Iron Man book because of I'm so interested in Fall of X right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice.
But I think it's okay that there are these little corners, and there's some things connect to some things, and some things connect to other things, but not everything has to connect together necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know what branch this show falls on. I'm
Right.
guessing it falls in with WandaVision, which is sort of connected to Multiverse of Madness, but that's really the only thing. There's nothing thematic about it. It's just literally some of the characters have crossed paths there. So, and I guess so that it's this in the Marvels, and Ant-Man was more tied with Kang, the multiverse, because that was introduced in Kang. We still don't know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, and what's next after the Marvels? I can't remember anymore.
Right. Well, it goes along with what we're saying about just kind of like losing interest. Like it's weird. We went from being so excited and we're like, oh my God, how are they gonna like keep going after Infinity War, to like sort of like forgiving stuff because we're like, hey, it's COVID and they're starting over. They've got to give new characters a try. To now, it's just kind of like, what is even coming next? I don't really give a shit.
This is why in comic books superheroes don't age.
Yeah.
You're always going to have the top tier characters bringing in the most attention.
Yeah.
And it's when you leave them out and you leave out the biggest pieces, it gets harder to pull your attention. And sometimes they can come out of nowhere with the Guardians of the Galaxy and make that a top tier property, but you can't do that with everything. Not everything can catch everyone's attention.
Right.
It's impossible. And I think really here the big idea, and like I said, Bob Iger is right.
Yeah. Well, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a great example. It's sort of an antithesis of Secret Invasion, because James Gunn truly did make the Guardians characters like his characters. Like the characters in the comics now are the characters in the movie, right? He like took the characters in the comics and made his James Gunn version. And it's like very much like his movies. Like even if it wasn't connected to all this other Marvel shit, he could almost say like, this is my original trilogy of movies. And it's this story that goes 1, 2, and 3, right? It makes sense. And some people that we know might say it's better than the original Star Wars trilogy. Right? Yeah, not us. We're just the podcast that says Bob Iger is right. The guy that makes 400 times.
I'm gonna get a shirt. Like Van Dieter was right. Bob Iger was right.
Yes, as long as the Transformer is on it too. Maybe like Unicron. But no. What the fuck was I even saying? Yeah. So like the Guardians movies were very much like James Gunn's movies, and then this Secret Invasion, it just kind of feels like this is the next thing, like, oh, we got to, cover this because this was a comic at one point.
Yeah.
Right.
And this should have been done in a bigger capacity. This should have been done with superheroes rather than just the secret agent community, which we don't even know
Right.
who's affiliated with what. Like, what is Nick Fury? Is he just U.S. government, or was he? I mean, it's not Shield. Shield doesn't exist.
Right.
They haven't said anything. Was Saber? Was it Saber in WandaVision?
He's in Saber now. He's
have they said that once?
Yeah, they have said Saber on this show. Yes,
They
absolutely.
did? When?
Yes. Like someone was like, "What are you doing up there on Saber?" Something like that. You know?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. He's up on his space station, Saber. They say something like that in one of these episodes. But no, like, you know, obviously they're going to try to do like Dark Avengers or whatever. They're going to be doing the Thunderbolts, right? And you could set up the Dark Avengers so perfectly the way that they followed in the comics. Like, you know, you went from Secret Invasion right to Dark Reign, which had the Dark Avengers. You know, they're going for that Dark Avenger vibe for you know. So I don't know, man. It's just it sounds like we're kind of bummed about this. There's only one episode left, and then what's the next thing that we're covering?
Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm very excited about that.
Okay, I'm excited about that too. Yeah, and my daughter's actually, she's looking forward to it too.
I found Bebop and Rocksteady in the store. I love this thing. I love his stupid head that only turns one way.
Yeah, man, look at that. That's from the movie, huh? That's
Yeah. I found they're only $10. I'm like, oh my god, a toy that's only $10. That's insane these days.
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah. They have to be like at least 34 at Target. That's awesome, man. Well, do you have anything else to say about Secret Invasion episodes 3, 4, and 5?
There were two things. One of them I remember. The scene where Emilia Clarke, Gaia, and Priscilla are like fending off Gravik's hit squad.
Yeah.
They go into this one room, and Navarra pulls out these vests. They have all these like guns on and shit like that, and they start just like wrecking everybody. And I totally get that Var would be able to do that because she built this pack, or she knows where all that shit is. But how the fuck does Gaia know where all that shit is? She's like ripping the shotgun, whipping out a utility pouch and reloading it and shit, pulling clips out and everything and grenades. How the hell does she know where all that shit is on all that?
Yeah, really good point. Yeah.
And there was some other really major thing I wanted. Oh, we didn't talk at all about Sonya. I love Sonya.
Wait, who's Sonya?
Isn't it Sonya?
Who?
I forgot her name.
What's
the British lady?
Oh, the British lady. Oh yeah, Olivia Colman. Yes.
Olivia Colman. Is her name Sonya?
Probably. Ooh, and Sophie. And she's Sophie on the show Peep Show. So we can call her Sophie. Yeah.
She is the only smart character in this entire show.
Yes.
She walked into that office of her superior and
just
she's like, "Hey, you're going to tell me what the hell I want to know, and I'm going to shoot you and prove to everybody you're a Skrull."
Yes.
If she was in charge of the show, like the show wouldn't exist because everything would be solved.
Yes. Yes.
I also had a huge problem with the scene in the hospital with Rhodey and Nick Fury. Like, why the hell didn't they just kill Nick Fury there?
Yeah, I know.
I guess he knows where the harvest is. I guess.
Yeah. I was actually worried at the end of episode 5 that Sonya or whatever, that she was going to end up being a Skrull anyway once he took the harvest out. Like, I was going to...
That would have been insane.
Yeah, but it's
expected, I guess,
Right. But it would be one of those things where it's like, well, you're just kind of doing this to trick the audience, not the because
imagine she was a Skrull, but she was on Talos' side the whole time. Working against Gravik still, so she's still interrogating these people, and she knows they're Skrulls because she is one. Like that would be actually really good.
Oh, well, in my version, I was thinking that like once Fury was like, "Here's the harvest," that she was gonna like shoot him or something and take it. That's what I was.
No. Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
So basically, he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go take on Gravik," and then that's how the whole show's gonna go down.
I guess, but he does call somebody, and I'm curious as to who he calls. The last thing you see in the episode 5 is he picks up his phone and he says, "All right, it's time," or something, or let's move.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just going to be him and Sonya, going against an army of super Skrulls.
Yeah, well, it'd be kind of cool if he actually like called the Avengers. Like, okay, so who?
Oh, what if he calls the Thunderbolts?
Oh, that would be cool.
That actually might be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. That would be very cool, actually. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What if he actually did call Elaine, like he was working with her, or whatever her name is, Contessa?
I'm saying this now. If he called Elaine, and the whole, or if at least like 3/4 of the Thunderbolts team shows up,
yeah,
I will give this show a passing score.
Nice.
That's enough superheroes for me, in terms of being exciting enough. I know there won't be Skrulls, but that's enough for me to be excited about this and for a setup-y kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be excited. I don't think it's going to happen. And we do have to rank all the MCU shows next episode too.
Yes, I'm prepared to do that.
Okay. I think this is the 9th one now, right?
Man, that's a lot of shows.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's kind of it. I know I had other things to say, but just talking about it, and you've done what I usually do. Like I usually say all the negative shit, and I feel like I'm kind of bringing it down a little bit. Yeah. I was feeling good about this.
I feel like I'm doing this a lot lately too. What was the last thing that I really? Oh, Flash. I didn't like Flash as much as anyone on that review that we did.
Yeah, and you know what? As I've thought about Flash over time, I've been like, yeah, that was pretty bad too.
I'm sorry I brought you down.
No, it's okay. But you know what? I mean, honestly, dude, if comic book adaptations just keep being lame, maybe we should just talk about comics, you know?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Because I have a lot of comic book stuff to talk about with you, but I'll just wait till we're done recording. But anyway, guys,
Void Rivals, the weird ass cliffhanger in that issue, number 2.
I didn't buy it yet, so don't spoil it. Yeah. But anyway, this is me and Brian kind of talking about Secret Invasion and how we didn't really like it. We'll be back to probably do the same for episode 6, the finale.
Unless the Thunderbolts show up.
Yes. Okay. That's true. What do you guys think is going to happen? Let us know in the comments. Let us know if you like this show. And we will see you guys in one.